Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Crazy Talk Podcast, episode 25 now. It's been a few weeks. And
I
today,
know.
ladies and gentlemen, we have an extremely special guest, Agent Sebastian from the Narcs. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. I am the creator of the Narcs and the main person you'll see and or hear out there patrolling and keeping people from being lazy.
A very noble quest indeed, I'll tell you that. So,
Thank you, thank you.
I'm going to start straight off the bat and ask, what made you want to start Narcs?
It it's something that I do in general is I'm very much a hands-on person. I'm not the first person to observe that people leaving their carts out is selfish and it sucks. I mean, you can go back. In fact, the I was it was funny. I was tagged a while ago in a Peanuts cartoon of all things. Yes, Snoopy, Charlie Brown, those people
Huh.
from I think 1992, where it was Snoopy and the little bird Woodstock, and Woodstock had left his card out like against a tree or something. And Snoopy's like, "Oh, one of those people." So the observation has been out there forever. I'm just a person is of doing something about it. You know, investigating, getting hands on, seeing
Mhm.
what the deal is, and that's kind of where the card narcs came from. Was just walked up to a grocery store parking lot, waited for someone to leave their card out, and said, "Hey, why are you doing that?" And it kind of spiraled out, out either out of control or into control from there.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it's basically the stars aligned in a sense.
Yeah, I observed something that a lot of the people observed. I just decided to do something about it.
Good, good. I'm so glad because I'll tell you what, I'm not too old myself, but my years being alive, I have noticed that every time you're walking in the grocery store, there's some, as you like to call them, lazy bones who just
Sure.
love to just leave their carts in the worst places, completely blocking spots, blocking exits. And I totally understand you wanting to do this. It makes 100% sense. And it's very good that you were one of the few people that's like, you know what? I'm gonna make a whole sort of business out of this and just um, fix people's wrongdoings.
Yeah, and it's something that definitely is has developed over time, and hopefully will continue to develop. It's I think I didn't consciously think about this too much, but the manner in which I do it, I think, is very helpful. Of just being polite and kind and sweet for the most part, because there have been others who have kind of done, like YouTubers and
Hmm.
whoever,
Hmm.
TikTokers or whoever, who've done like one-offs where they're a bit more aggressive and angry. Um,
Yeah,
so you don't get the same. It's not the same effect though, because like, oh yeah, someone's yelling at me. They may have a point, but stop yelling at me.
Yeah, I know. And I was gonna mention, like, I don't know how you remain so calm and collected and always have something to say back in situations like that. I find it astonishing.
Well, it's repetition. It's like anything else,
Hmm.
the whole Steph Curry's not making these insane three pointers because he hasn't been practicing for 25 years or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the more I do it, the more I number one I'm used to what they're gonna say. And there's always surprises. There's always new wrinkles, which was what keeps it interesting. But the same style and general rebuttals I'm very used to, so I'm able to kind of have fun and creative responses for those people.
Yeah, I can't get over it. Like every single time there's always just a brilliant response. And because you said it is a matter of experience and repetition, was it kind of rough in the beginning? Were things difficult?
Yeah, you can watch like some of the earlier videos, and it's not as maybe funny or as quick for that very reason. Just kind of I was still experiencing some of these people for the first time. But it's, like I said, with repetition, just it unfortunately their brains kind of all work the same, so it became easier and easier pretty quickly.
That
'cause it's
is
crazy too how like as soon as you just mention the cards to them, they know they're in the wrong, but they just tend to just freak out at you and just start automatically saying you're harassing them and whatnot, and they're just throwing out all these different words. Meanwhile, you're not. You're literally
Right,
just trying
there's
to
all
have a
these
conversation with them.
It's a yeah. There's all these instant lawyers or something like that. And actually, I'm reading a book about it's from FBI and CIA negotiators, like how to tell when someone's lying to you. And they say anger is the easiest and quickest way. If someone's pissed, like you say, "Oh, so and so, did you steal money from the cash register, or are you a secret agent or double agent?" Anger is the number one way that people will tell you that they are in the wrong.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That is
that's
true.
true to
It's
think
very
about.
interesting to see like the psychology of how you said like they are very similar and how they almost, what makes them tick because they all have the exact same reaction because, watching your videos you can tell that there's one of two reactions as soon as you mention that they need to put their card away. One, they oblige. Two, they just get in their car and roll up their window like nothing's happening. But as soon as that magnet goes on, they completely lose their mind.
Yeah, it's strange, and that's another thing that it's kind of evolved over time. Is because I at first when I was doing it, I didn't have any kind of magnet, nothing like that. People would still scream and yell at me and threaten me and stuff like that. And then I kind of for a little while I I had like a business card that I would stick under their windshield. Didn't really affect anybody. I never got a call on the card, but it's the whole, like you said, the magnet, which for folks who've never seen it, says some variation of "I don't return my card like a jerk." Um, and again, it's not anything that's going to hurt their vehicle, but it shows everyone else in the world, hey, this person's lazy. And number two, it's sort of like it's not, like I said, it's not spray paint. It's not a key. I'm not keying their car. I'm not putting a permanent sticker on there, but it's sort of I've told this, I bring this up in several videos where like, well, you don't care about other people's vehicles, but the second I do something that in a harmless way alters your vehicle, suddenly the world's on fire.
Yeah, it's really strange. And it's a great idea that you thought of a magnet because, they always like to bring up vandalism, which a magnet's not going to do anything. But
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, but like a sticker or like paint, it's like, yeah, maybe, but that, a magnet's a great idea. And I wanted to ask, has anyone actually called that number that you leave on the magnets?
A handful of times, not too many. There was pretty recently a very famous one here in the LA area where the guy he and this is a little bit of a controversial one because he's a streamer and he's known to people and was known to me, but he didn't know who I was. But
Hmm.
I worked with some people who knew his name's Perry Caravello, and um he had brought up on his stream that he didn't return the card, or he only does it when it's convenient for him, if it's right there, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And so I had known of him, and I had people who knew where he would be. Again, he had no idea, but he freaks out, tries to beat me up, etc., etc., because that's kind of what he's known to do that. It's a long story, his career, but there was one magnet he didn't see me put on, and he gets home, he calls it, and he cusses me out for like 2 or 3 minutes. He's the most famous one, but there's been others. There was one guy in Connecticut who I put a magnet on his wife's car, and he "F you, get the F back to California." So there've been there was a guy at the Memphis area, I believe it was, who did it. Like, you better, if I ever see you again, I'll kick your ass. Well, he had a chance to kick my ass earlier when he didn't, so I don't believe him. But there've been a
Yeah.
handful.
Interesting. Okay. So that number is just your number.
It was a separate. It's not my cell
Oh,
phone, but
okay.
yes,
Yeah,
it's,
I was
it's set
gonna
up to a
say.
voicemail. It's set up to a
Okay.
voicemail, and I'm happy to talk to people. But also the number gets out. People freeze frame it, and I'll get just random haters. Like, there's this lady in Jacksonville who she'll call like once a month and leave 3 or 4 messages about how she's gonna get me arrested by the FBI. She doesn't seem like maybe she has it all there,
Ah.
but she then throws out a lot of the stuff you talked about, the harassment and stuff like that.
Huh. Oh, that's a shame. So is that why you've censored the number in recent videos?
In some I do, and then eventually I thought, well, whatever. I can just, because the vast majority of the calls are from fans, like say, hey, great work, thanks a lot, appreciate
Oh,
it, so on and so forth.
oh, that's good.
It's for me, it really was not worth the effort because it's not really, I'm not getting a ton of spam calls or anything.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Makes sense. Um, so I guess delving into the number, what so I remember you talking to somebody, who was not putting their card away, and they asked about the magnet, and you explained to them that it's a number to like like to fix your laziness. What exactly
Right.
would you be like telling them? What would how would you try and help them out?
Ultimately, the hope would be that they would call and say, "Hey, I'm sorry," or "Hey, can we talk more about this?" "Hey, I apologize," so that I could then have a conversation because we can't have a full on like we're having now. We can't have a full, or we could. It's unlikely we'll have a full conversation in a parking lot about the whole principle and everything. So hopefully they would have a longer conversation like we're having right now. That has not happened so much,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
sadly.
The whole idea behind that was, hey, they can call, or if one finds the magnet on the ground, they can call to return it. Uh, so far it's just been people cussing me out, but hopefully one that day will come.
Yeah, hopefully, because I imagine one day there will be a man who genuinely does feel bad, maybe he's having a bad day or something, and he calls you, and you can explain to him, like a conversation like this, how he could better himself with putting away his cards.
You would hope, and that's I think that's hopefully the next level. Like 3 4 years down the road, somebody who said, you know what, I was being a real dick, and I went to rehab. Whatever in their life changed.
Yeah, something changed,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and it's funny that, and on a similar vein, when I did the Dr. Phil show a few months ago, they actually through
Ooh.
their resources, I'm assuming private detectives and whatever, reached out to. I think from they told me they reached out to like 25 or so people. They got responses. Again, this is third hand from 3 or 4 or 5 people. Only got one who actually came on the show, and had several who actually backed out at last minute just because they weren't ready to have that reconciliation and that talk.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, that Dr. Phil thing, that was not great. That was I think it felt very biased.
Oh, it was, yeah. It was a total hit piece on me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like, because literally every talking point he brought up and every guest he had on was to try to discredit me, which I thought, I'm fine. I can deal with that. That's fine. It made, I think, for an entertaining, at least on my end, back and forth. But yeah, he was on me from the start.
Yeah, it was sad to see it because I mean most of those TV specials, there's one similar to it just called like I think it's called The Doctors where you would think that they have two opposing opinions and they go up and have debate. However, that's usually not how things go, and it's just an incredibly one-sided, like whoever owns the studio. It's a very one-sided argument where jump cuts and getting people to argue against them tries to push things in their favor. But if you delve deep into it, especially in your case, I, there's nothing you are doing wrong. In fact, it's very positive.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I get it's part of the format. And if you kind of watch it, it wasn't cut down too much. It's very much like I would hopefully have a chance to rebut whatever he was saying, but that it was never an exploration of that point. It was always on to the next thing, on to the next thing. That's
Mhm.
pretty much how it happened in real time too. So partly it's the format, is not a longer form talk like we have here, like trying to think like the Larry King show was, or some of those older talk shows.
Yeah, okay, I understand. It's just like very shallow exploration of each point, and then boom, next one.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. I guess moving on to another question here. So you've mentioned a few times about this cart. I think it's called Cart Narcs like Academy.
Oh yeah, it's sort of part of the way we keep, or I keep level levity in it, is that because people will ask how I train. Dr. Phil brought that point up. And so it's kind of the whole like we're a force, it's like we're some kind of special agency of whatever. And it kind of adds to, just like I said, this like, the silliness that there's this like group that would train people to bust people. And all you need to do to be a Cardinarch essentially is have a pair of eyes. You can, hey, that's not where that goes. You're done. you know. But as far as people getting violent and having to chase down loose carts and stuff like that, it does help to be physically active, but yeah, it's just it's more for the silliness of things.
Okay, so you basically you're sort of self-aware that it is kind of a silly notion. For as helpful it is a little silly.
Well, there's a principle in like comedy writing and sketch writing called mapping, where you take the specifics of one thing, let's say in this case, special forces, GI Joe sort of thing, take those specifics but apply it to a different situation, which is returning your card. And that's all I'm doing is I'm putting that sort of like squad, I don't know, I'm careful not to say that I'm a police officer or a military officer, but putting those like GI Joe specific A team specifics, to use a bunch of 80s references, on the cart returning thing.
Yeah, I understand. It's really great too. It's nice to think that there is some sort of agency out there, just preventing carts from scratching, denting vehicles, because it's happened a few times, like that I've heard about from like close like family friends throughout my life, and so it's great that there is an agency like that doing this. And if you don't mind me asking, roughly how many agents do you have?
That is a another thing. It was brought up in the Dr. Phil. Was that it's to kind of build upon that whole mythology of there being an agency. You would assume you'd have a lot of agents, and because it's typically a body camera, I can just change my voice and be whoever I want to be.
Oh,
So it's funny. I was talking to a guy recently who he's a fan. He's known about it forever. He's like, yeah, I know you do most of the voices except for this one. That's another guy, right? I'm like, no, that's not. Which again, I think adds to the silliness of it is if I'm in, a certain part of the country, that person in, New York State, for instance, is a sort of a John Travolta, whatever.
yeah. Now that I think, okay, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
It's a
I
common
had
thing.
my. I'm sorry.
It's a common misconception, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not gonna lie. I had my suspicions, but you had me fooled. I genuinely thought there's at least like maybe a few agents, but
Does it
It's
always
funny
just you?
when you watch South Park, like they do 95% of those voices, but because you're looking at somebody different and the character is speaking different dialogue, you kind of forget about it after a while. You forget that it's just two guys screwing around doing most of those voices, and that's kind of, I guess, a similar situation with me.
yeah, I guess so because I just find it very funny now that it's confirmed sitting right in front of me. Because I mean, throughout watching the videos, because I found you through a friend who I think stumbled across your most famous video, the one with the I can't remember the name of the video, but the guy in the truck who kept confronting you over and over again.
Who left the parking lot and came back to try to, like, he was pulling in random passerbys to tell them his side of the story. They're like, what, huh? Why
I
would I care?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
hate
he
when
was.
people do that. It's terrible.
Yeah, like he chased me past where the cart return was. He literally made it worse for himself at every single step along the way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I also feel bad for those passerbys. I remember once you were leaving the final exit, or near it, he pulls in, or I think he followed you on foot, and then just this random guy is like, "Hey, come here, come here.
Hey,
You want me to tell
you know
you?
what he did?
Let me tell you what this guy's doing."
Yeah, it's funny because he charged at me like he wanted to hurt me. That didn't work out because he's probably close to 50 and not in great shape, it appeared. And then then got back in the truck, and like it was literally, I don't know if it's just it was a case example in human pride and how it makes you, when you have so much pride about yourself, how you look so dumb to everyone else.
A
Hopefully he's
toxic
gotten
amount of
better.
pride.
Again, hopefully 4 or 5 years from now he'd be he'd be a changed man.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well,
Because
all we can do is pray.
Yep. Because, I mean, I will say there are probably some cases where you confronted somebody, but they were just having a bad day, and they wouldn't normally do something like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I don't know. I guess people have had that observation, and that's something that Dr. Phil brought up too. Was that, well, what if these people are just having a bad day? What if, and to that, maybe that's true. Maybe they're just pissed. Maybe they,
Still no
car
excuse
got
to leave out your cart, though.
right. Because and I brought it up to Dr. Phil is I always ask. I always say, oh, why didn't you? Because they'll give me an excuse like I'm busy, and I'll say, oh, really? Where are you going? And it's always some BS. It's
Mhm.
Or
always
they
nothing.
just ignore the question and just start like going at you, and it's like,
Right, exactly. And so maybe that's true, but it's never has it ever been. Oh, my mom died. Oh, I just my cat just got cancer. Like it's never that. And if it ever were, okay, I'll tell you. There was one time. I don't think I posted this video. I may have yet. Where it was a really short one where I didn't see that the woman was wearing like a walking boot. But you know what? She didn't get pissed when I approached her. She's like, "Oh yeah, I got this boot on," and it goes back to the anger thing. Is when you know you're wrong is when you're most likely to get angry.
Hmm.
The lady that I approached said, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I got this boot on." I was like, "Oh," and I said to her, "Oh, I didn't see that. Sorry, I'll grab your card for you." Perfectly lovely, perfectly pleasant. She didn't scream and yell at me. What are you talking about? This is harassment. Blah 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 blah. She stated the facts because that's what the facts were. So that's I hear that argument and I'm open to that. I'm open to that possibility, but I just think it's just 999 times out of 1,000, it is not the case.
Mhm. Yeah, because I remember another case where I'm not sure if you remember the video. It was very short. Excuse me, where I think you were outside of a pharmacy. It looked like, and someone left their card out. They were getting in their car. You did the famous siren to get their attention, and he got out of the car already, like before you confronted him or anything, already extremely upset. Then you mentioned to him why you were approaching him. I think it was something along the lines of, they just effed me over in that store. And then he,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that was in actually in West Hollywood in LA, where yeah, he's super pissed, and I've heard that before too, once or twice. It happened there and in Colorado. They just effed me over, and I'm like, how, why, what? They just did. Like, and people have commented in that video, how could the store have effed you over? Like, what could they possibly have done? Um, but yeah, I think it's oftentimes a projection of something else that's going on.
Mhm. that does make me think though, what could they have done? Like,
They didn't
what
accept.
really is
Yeah, they
it?
didn't accept the return.
I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, you are correct in the fact that there are very few good reasons for them to have left their cart, which, and in those cases where it is a good reason, you just usually take it back for them, which is great. Again, like there's no wrongdoings. I don't see how people could even complain about your service whatsoever.
Yeah, there's one I posted. God, just I haven't posted it on YouTube, but I posted on Instagram from Utah the other day, where this woman, and I didn't bust her because I knew ahead of time that she looked older, and she said I'm 77, but she was very nice about it because I told her I'm not going to bust you. I'm just pointing out that the cart returns over there. She has a sweet conversation with me as she starts doing squats in the in the parking lot,
Uh,
basically showing that she could have returned her cart. The woman she was with, who's her same age, said I told her to put it back. Um, so she was, and again, I wasn't like doing anything with the magnets because I wasn't technically busting her. I was just I put the cart back for her.
mhm.
But yeah, she knew that it wasn't a big deal, and she was happy about it. There was one in Philadelphia from last summer where the guy, he's probably 50, but he got out of his Jeep and he's like, man, you know what? You're right. I was just being lazy. I'm sorry. I should take it back. And I even offered to take it back for him. He said, no, 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 man, it's my call. So there are those rare cases where they just say, you know what, you're right, and they don't default to anger.
And those make me the happiest when I see that. Just like, nice, there are people who are able to redeem themselves, and that's a great thing that you allow people to redeem themselves because, like you said, like I don't even like to use this word, but influencers, I suppose, and content creators who will do something similar, but maybe it's for parking, maybe it's for, I don't know, littering or something, where they immediately just assume that there is no other reason other than just, they assume, what's the saying? Always assume
Guilty,
ignorance.
yeah, guilty until you're innocent or whatever sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of deal. They always assume like, oh, they just did it out of malice, and they immediately jump on them, or not
Right.
literally. I mean, sometimes literally, but they immediately, start cussing them out or like I don't know, spray something on them or anything like that. But
Yeah, tone is definitely, I think, a help, and that's something I've learned over doing this is that tone is helpful because there have been, one-off YouTubers or whatever who come out and scream and try to get it angry with somebody or who would try to intimidate them, and you kind of lose even if you have the argument on your side from an intellectual point of view, you lose it from just a tone point of view.
agreed, yeah, makes a big difference. Um, so I guess I kind of changed the subject a little while ago, but going back to the quote unquote agents. So how many caricatures and like what made you think of the different caricatures you could use? Like how did you come up with them?
Uh, it was it was early on when I was doing it. It was people I worked with. Like, what if? Because they would say, "Man, I wish I could do, cart narcs with you, but I can't because I couldn't handle the confrontation, or I would get angry, or, I wouldn't know what to say, or I don't want to go out. I just don't want to go out." So I said, "Well, what if, this guy I worked with, Cameron? What if he went out? It would sound like this." And then it kind of
Ah,
got me rolling. Well, what if so and so, would a different voice have people respond better or worse? And obviously the easy kind of takeoff from that is, well, what if someone in Louisiana did it, or Texas, or New York, or fill in the blank, sort of. So I think there's 6 or 8, I guess, total. And I want to, we'll do more as hopefully as things kind of move. I also as I get bored too. You just want to
yeah.
spice things up for yourself.
No, yeah, that would make
Yeah.
things more interesting, definitely.
So yeah, so
No,
what? So what if so and so?
no, like, is there actually anyone else though who does it with you, or is it strictly just you?
Well, there's been really only one in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where a woman, Steph Sugar, you can see those videos from around this time last year, where she had been tagging me in a bunch of Instagram videos, and I said to her, because she has kind of a online presence, seemed like she was pretty savvy, knew what she was talking about as far as being a fan and stuff. I said, "Hey, I've never been to Albuquerque. Would you show me around the lots?" So I went out with her and her husband, and her husband was on a walkie, which was great because having a spotter is the number one thing I need in
Yeah,
card
that's a good
narcs.
idea.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you have your back turned, you can't see what's happening behind you, and you see it in those videos where like you hear the walkie, "Hey, we got the brown truck, blah 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 blah," and I wouldn't have seen that otherwise. So he was very helpful, and she was sort of the like I was talking about was a different voice because she's fun to look at for a lot of people. Um, and so to see there, and there was one guy who like just started taking video of her because he didn't get pissed. He was like, "Oh, okay, what's up? How's it going?" But then again, there was also a lady who just screamed and yelled at us as her. It was funny because as her passenger was crawling in the passenger window, not the door, and she's screaming at us, effing us off, flipping us, whatever. So I am interested, and now that we are kind of travel restriction wise, pretty much out of the whole those issues. I'm interested in having some folks. So I think I've heard vicariously, and this would be an ultimate get, is that the guy who's Bubbles from the Trailer Park Boys, who's famous for what he does with shopping carts on that
Yeah,
show,
yeah.
if you watch on Netflix, I've heard that he's either he's aware of our videos to some extent.
Really?
So now, yeah, but I have to go to Nova Scotia to hang out with him. So that would
That's
be an
true.
interesting crossover. And it's funny, I've had a few either semi-celebrity people follow me, but they're like uh and comment on videos, but like one of them would have been great is John Jones, John Bones Jones. Unfortunately, he has had numerous legal issues. So like, possibly the greatest UFC fighter pound for pound ever loves cart narcs, but then again, he's got problems in his personal life. So I'm like, well, great, I
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't put that
it's a
on.
little
A
disappointing.
lot of a lot of political people who I know would be interested, but I don't want to make cart narcs political
Hmm.
one
No,
way or the other. So I'm glad that they follow and are fans. But I know the instant that they are in a video or are mentioned in a video, it's an instant that's a distraction. And
yeah.
so I don't want that to be an issue either way. There's a few comedians of note here and there who I know are fans, one way or the other. Uh, so maybe that's something I'll look into here in the near future, for the next year, hopefully.
Okay, so you wouldn't be opposed to have like another full-time agent on your team.
Oh, I don't think I'd get someone who would do it full time because I think they would get tired of it pretty fast.
Oh,
I
I
tell
see.
people it's not like fishing. Like it's exciting to watch the final product,
Mm,
but actually doing it is way, that's why I'm doing the voices and stuff like that. Actually doing it, there's a lot of sitting around and waiting.
okay. I feel like there's somebody out there who would love to, they'll go through the boring parts just to nobly save some cars. I
I
feel
hope
like,
so. And at the very least, maybe have someone who's on once a month or once every few months for, just hang out for an afternoon and do it with me. We'll drive
yeah,
around.
shift work almost.
Yeah.
Okay, that's lovely. And you kind of bringing up John Jones being a car narc. I just think if you could, I don't know who it would be because I don't know who would want to do it, but I think one episode would be pretty funny if you got like a very tall, very big, intimidating man to do it instead to see how if there's any differences in how the lazy bones react to
Right,
it.
because you see it, because I'm average size, height wise, maybe a little above average build, but and in fact, it's funny you brought that up because most of the people who charge at me and try to beat me up would not win the fight. I mean,
No.
they're. It's. I'll tell you, if people say, is there a type of person who's lazy? Not really overall, because you'll see it's all shapes and sizes who leave their carts out. But the
Mhm.
people who will try to fight me almost always are men between like 45 and 55. That's the guys who are chasing me for the most part. And usually overweight, and usually, they're 20 years out of their playing weight, sort of, past their
Mhm.
prime, so to
Yeah,
speak. Um, so yeah, it would be interesting to have, I'm like thinking like a, Shaq sized dude, maybe Shaq, not today's size Shaq, but 15 years ago Shaq.
Uh,
Some amateur wrestler or something like that. Yeah, that could be very interesting. You
that
just
would
show
be
like as soon
great.
as they get out to like approach me, say, "Oh, hey, here's my co-agent,"
Hey, here's my friend.
Mongo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember, 'cause there was someone who did that, sort of similar, actually a very extreme version of that, where it was a parking. I believe they're Russian. At the time, it was a few
oh,
years
these
ago.
guys.
It was a few years ago where they made this video where, you know, uh, people parking in the wrong spot. One guy by himself would kindly go up and ask, like, "Excuse me, sir, this is people need this spot for like an ambulance to come in and to exit, like to walk out." And most of the time they'd say no. Some of them would,
Screw off.
move, yeah,
Yeah.
but most of them were just like screw off or something like that. But then if they said no, they hired, I think it was seven like huge bodybuilders to come over, ask one more time, and if they still didn't move, then they would move the car for them.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, because a lot of those European cars are pretty small. You can kind of pick
Yeah.
them up if you have enough people. That brings up. There's a channel that does. I think it's probably the same channel. The Stop a Douchebag, I think, is how
Yep,
it
that's them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
translates. And they sort of, yeah, I guess the problem in Russia is people blocking emergency exit. And I guess they just drive on the sidewalk a lot of times too.
Yeah, that's very.
Oh,
The driving there is kind of crazy because they just drive
And
on
I've
the
been to Russia
sidewalk.
once, but I don't recall it was a while ago. But I don't recall that seeing that. But and we sort of have come upon the same sort of methodology. Like because when I started, I didn't have anything, and I had the business cards, and now I progressed to the magnets, and people would start mentioning, "Hey, your channel is like Stop a Douchebag," and so I did recently check out some of their stuff, and they use these giant stickers that cover windshields, which
Yeah.
if I did that, I would get in trouble
Hmm.
because they'd say you're impeding, blah blah blah. So that's why all my stuff, so far at least, is I have the flag, which I've had for I don't know less than a year now. That it's a little like a promotional flag. It's I don't know, it's 2 feet tall. That just says the same sort of thing. I don't return my shopping cart, um, but it doesn't really obstruct people's vision like a sticker that covers half their windshield would.
Yeah. That flag stays on pretty well. Would you
hmm.
get it made?
I wish I don't have the company in front of me, but you search for like custom promo flags, and they're out there. They're for like car dealerships or whatever. And you'll pop that'll pop right up as there's several companies that'll do them for you. They're not cheap. They're like $30, and I've only lost one or two because people they don't for the most part, don't drive off with them. They just they take them off and chuck them at me, or into the distance like a javelin.
Yeah. But I mean, I will say they're pretty well made because I've seen, a few times, rare cases where you do stick it on and they drive off, like they speed off, and that thing just hangs on, no problem.
Yeah, if it's applied properly, which is tough to do with people moving and doing whatever.
Yeah,
They
under
they
pressure.
they do well when applied properly.
Seems like it, definitely. And going back to, I guess, physicality, I've noticed over, well, I haven't like, I've noticed watching through the videos, you're getting pretty fast. Like, I see you just speeding across parking lots, like, very quickly now.
Well, it seems that way, and I do a fair amount of running, but that also goes back to like if people try to beat me up sort of thing. Is I am in running shoes, typically shorts or sweatpants, and a shirt. The vest weighs like 6 pounds. I don't have any equipment like a cop would have, belt wise. So I'm at the gym, prepared for the gym. The guys who are trying to beat me up are in jeans and loafers. They're not ready for a track race. So I'm by no means am I an NFL wide receiver, but I am sort of prepared for that. So I have that advantage going for me basically.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm surprised. So, did you say that, like, it's a bulletproof vest?
It initially was not, but is now. It was after the video where the guy in Texas pulled a gun on me. A guy who's actually a police officer in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, said, "Hey man, I got an extra vest. I'll send it to you." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he did. He's a bike officer there, or was at the time. I believe still is. And he just mailed it off to me. And it just so happens that the way the vest is designed is in front they have like a Velcro pocket where you can put an extra like steel plate for extra protection above the Kevlar, and that's just a perfect place to put the little GoPro. You can clip it in right there and go from there.
That's perfect.
That's
Nice.
good. Very, very kind of him to send that out. But I
Yeah, it's
guess
nice.
I guess my most surprising thing though, it's only 6 pounds, you say?
Kevlar is just a woven synthetic fabric, so it's heavy compared to a fishing vest, for instance. But yeah, without the plates anyway, it was only because we saw it on the package that it came in. It was this weighs 6 pounds.
Damn. Very
I
surprised.
got to weigh a lot more and it expands. For
Yeah, well, yeah. If you put the vests in, you have the radio, and then of course on the belt you got guns and ammo and tasers and flashlights or whatever. So and it's hot. I will say that it is hot as hell. I don't know how these cops who wear this, they wear a long sleeve shirt over it, So I guess they're not hiking around parking lots like I am, though.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder how you don't get overheated, because I would think that that is quite warm. Very.
Yeah, especially it's not terrible though. But like I said, I wear shorts and t-shirt, not t-shirt, but like shorts and running shoes. So it's not. I help myself out in other ways.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, but yeah, no, I'm just, I guess I must have looked it up a while ago out of curiosity, and I looked up, how much would a bulletproof vest weigh, and I suppose that including the equipment, because every result was between 15 and 25 pounds, so I don't know.
I believe it fully equipped. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably where they're getting that number from. But that's great. That's good that you're not lugging that around, and that would be kind of dangerous if it was that heavy with like in any violent confrontation.
Yeah, well, it's designed for someone with a gun, not someone with a flashlight, basically. which is
Yeah.
what I have.
So that's good.
No,
Um,
I'd like to. Sorry, Colin.
no,
I'd
you
like
go
to
ahead.
add. Okay, sweet. Have you ever like encountered someone crazy that you haven't caught on camera? Like, is there any like crazy encounters off camera, or do you always record when you're out on parking lots and whatnot?
Uh, that's a good. That's a good question. Is if sometimes someone will like just drive by and yell "F you," which is rare. 95% of the people who come up to me are like, "Oh, hey, I've seen your videos," and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're very nice. Trying to think, there have been a couple where the camera didn't work. Like there was one dude who clearly was like straight out of jail, chased me all over the place. This was outside of
Jesus.
Denver, and the camera. There was a, and this is not I do appreciate GoPros. They were very nice. But they had this add-on, which is like it's designed for streamers especially. It's got like a special little mic and a little place where you can attach an external microphone. And I had that on, and for whatever reason, the connection wasn't great, so the audio didn't work. And that guy, he was chasing me around like, if I wasn't afraid of going back to jail, I'd kick the liver living crap out of you, blah blah blah. Pull it up, and it's just the video, which without the audio, it's worthless essentially.
Damn.
But no, nothing too insane. Nothing like where someone's getting kidnapped, or somebody's acting like a maniac or shoplifting or whatever. So it's because I can turn it on obviously in a second. So and I try to keep it on me at all times.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
crazy though that someone like that just fresh came out of jail is chasing after you over a shopping cart. That's just still astonishing to me that they almost go to those measures over a damn shopping cart.
Well, it's funny because I think I have a similar one pretty recently in LA where the guy he took the magnet, rolled it up, and was like, "I'm gonna cram this up your ass." And I got a message, unconfirmed, I will be sure to say, from someone who said that, "Oh, that's my in-law," or "I know this guy, like a cousin of mine, and yeah, he's been in and out of jail." And it makes perfect sense because you just listen to his language and as he's trying to like chase me, his sort of the way he posts up is very like LA gang style. Like you watch, those prison shows. It's like that kind, and the way he dressed and his body language and just how he looked. So I tended to believe that person. In this case anyway.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's
I guess the good leading question to that is like, what is on or off camera? What is the most intense moment there's ever been with you trying to confront somebody?
Yeah, that one's up there. I think it's called like a Big Bully. It's from a month or two ago, I believe, here in LA. You would think the one where the guy pulls a gun on me, and it really wasn't that intense because 10 seconds earlier he was like trying to make fun of me and telling me, "Hey, put it back for me, buddy." So I didn't feel like he would have actually pulled the trigger, but he was just being a tough guy, which, as many people have pointed out, gives gun owners a terrible name. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're gonna pull it because because I just so happened to flag down a cop shortly thereafter. She called her supervising whatever. He came up half hour later. He's like, "Well, he'll say that that he didn't know who you were." And I said, "Man, watch the video," which I was showing him on my laptop. He specifically knows exactly what I'm talking about, and is making fun of me and teasing me. And then like you said, when the magnet came out, oh, there comes the gun. He specifically knew exactly what he was doing. The cop's like, "Well, technically, he doesn't point the gun at you." So that wasn't actually super intense because I think when someone's actually running after me, like the guys, and both guys in LA and some other guys around the country, but it's kind of gotten to the point where I'm used to it.
Yeah, you'd sort of get jaded after a while.
Right, and there's actually I haven't released one yet. It'll be in a week or two. It's from Long Island, where this guy gets out and he's chasing me around his car, and then his dad gets out, who's like 75, and the dad, I'm talking to the dad. I'm like, your son left his cart right here, and we're both at the cart. The dad grabs the cart, runs at me with the cart, and I'm running backwards at this point because he's in his 70s. The guy's probably, like I said earlier, about 45. And he throws the cart at me, and I'm running backwards. Throws it at me. Well, rolls it at me.
Okay.
And it just so happens that it ends up right at the cart return. And all I had to do was like directly, slightly move it with my hand. But that'll be coming out here in a little bit. So that's kind of the most intense. There's never been any knives. There've been knives. There was a guy who was, upon further review, most likely in the Crips in Long Beach here in LA, who gets out and then the magnet's on his hood, and he gets out, pulls out a knife, and uses the knife to like move it off the hood.
Yeah,
and a lot of people are.
Yeah,
and he's not like super. He doesn't try to stab me or chase me down, but he's definitely uses aggressive style language, like you better not, And you're like, oh wait, he's got blue jeans, a blue shirt, and a blue bandana over his face. He's in Long Beach and he's got a knife. Oh, this guy's probably a gang member, or
Yeah.
and maybe I think going back to the whole like prison confrontation thing, like I think those guys know that hey, I I shouldn't be attacking a guy because with my record, I'll be not I don't want to be back in jail for something stupid like a card. Uh, but and even in the video, I'm like okay, he's got a knife, but he's using it as a tool. He's not threatening me with it. So I try to be as fair as possible in that sort of respect.
I'm actually really surprised you've never been like attacked with a knife, because I feel like that'd be way more common. I mean, I know it's not, London, but I feel like it'd be way
Right.
more common.
Yeah, especially in like the South where or Midwest where people would have a knife just for utility's sake. When I was younger, I would have like a utility knife on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people realize it's a deadly weapon and they realize, oh, hey, that's jail, even if they are kind of freaking out a little bit and acting like a maniac. That's jail time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, at least people aren't that dumb sometimes.
Yeah,
But
psychotic.
yeah, I think that's a better word. Um,
It's it's funny how just speaking. Actually, it was in Compton where a guy pulled a taser, like a little one of those little flashlight taser things out. He pulled it out. He
huh.
didn't. He wasn't close enough to actually use it, but he had it ready to go.
That's damn.
That's
Sometimes.
wild to me that they go that far to pull that out.
Yeah, but for anyone who's ever used, and it wasn't a real taser, it was like I should say a stun
Okay.
gun because taser's an actual thing with prongs that shoots. And for
Okay.
everyone who's ever been hit by one of those things, the movies do us a great disservice because like they hurt a lot, they suck, but they don't knock you out. Like it's like getting smacked with a wiffle bat or something. It
Yeah.
sucks and it's painful. It'll get someone to stop doing something, but it's not going to like
Okay.
disable you.
Okay.
Is
I
that one
didn't
of
know
like
that.
the low grade ones, or because I'm pretty sure I've seen. I mean, I don't know, but would like a police taser be much more powerful?
Yeah, and I've been hit by a police taser just for not in the course of card narcs, just for fun, as it's to say. And yeah, those will because they're continuous. It's not just a little pop.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
it's across two different points of your body. It's two prongs. The idea is that high voltage is basically it seizes your muscles,
Hmm.
and you fall like you just stiffen up, and you can see it if you look at. There's plenty of videos of police activity where if it hits properly, you just basically you stiffen up like a board and fall over. But that's a continual applied voltage. It's not a one-off in your arm or your hip or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
not like
just,
a sting. It's more of just like completely seizing you.
right. Yeah. Like if you ever see like a shock collar that's just they hit it once, like oh that sucks, but you're not out of it.
Right. Huh. So you just you just wanted to get tased for fun?
Yeah, no, I'd gotten the civilian version, which is like a little looks like a little 38 special basically, but it does pop and it does have the cartridge that shoots out as opposed to like the little flashlight version.
Mm, okay. Um, ever been pepper sprayed?
That they make a noise and they're intimidating. You don't want to mess with one, but it's not gonna get you like the fun time, the real actual taser brand.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Um, what about pepper sprayed? That ever happen?
Just once, I believe, and that was the lady who she threw two drinks right at me, and then I believe she had it in her purse because at the end of it, she's like, "Okay, Sebastian, I got something for you." And from what I saw, it's tough to see in the video. Um, she was reaching and digging, and it looked like a canister of pepper spray, but I got away out of range very quickly.
Well, that's
Never
good because I
deployed.
know that stuff sucks. I've heard
It
so many
does.
like nightmares things about it. Like it just
Yeah, I've
like it.
never been hit specifically, but there's tons of videos you can watch of guys doing it to themselves, and if you hit it right, it lasts.
Yeah. Like I've heard stories of people that get it, and it's so bad sometimes like you can become allergic to things afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, real? Wow, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be
It's
surprised. That's
like
some,
I haven't got hit by pepper spray, but I got hit by bear spray, and that was very bad, and yeah, it made me like lactose intolerant for like a week or two.
oh, no kidding. Wow, yeah. Yeah, people talk about they won't get hit directly, but they'll just be downwind of it, and it's bad news.
It is.
Well, I mean, that's good you've never really been harmed. I mean, that's actually kind of lucky if you think about it, because I mean, me and my friends like to compare the people you deal with as almost like Grand Theft Auto NPCs. Uh,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they really seem to act like that sometimes. So I'm just really glad you've never actually
it's interesting.
been
Well,
harmed.
and that's the thing too is I'm always people will say, well, why don't you both in person and online later they'll say, why don't you stick around and fight me? Like, because I'm not gonna get anyone hurt.
Yeah.
That's not the point of what I'm doing is not to. I mean, I guess technically I could if I got cornered or they had friends who for whatever reason. But that goes back to like all these street fight videos you see where no one has to get hurt. You can always leave the situation and actual self-defense classes will teach you that. Like the best way not to get hurt is yeah, it's great to know how to like punch and dodge
Mhm.
and
Just in
not get choked
case, yeah.
out. But the best way is not to be engaged. Is to when
Yeah,
someone's trying to engage you is to leave.
exactly.
That'll save your life way more times than knowing how to like do a chokehold will save your life. Not to say
Agreed.
that the chokehold is not helpful to know, but just not engaging or not getting into the actual not being within a fist's range is the best way to do things.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that kind of reminds me of something we did talk about for a bit, but how 90% of the time the aggressors that do go after you are like, 40s, 50s, a little overweight and all that stuff. I think that dwells from a place of insecurity where like something is definitely going on in their life where they feel like they need to prove themselves, need to be a big tough guy like, "Oh, come here, I'm gonna beat you up."
Yeah, and I think too because it's there's not well, one thing with I do approach younger men who are fitter, but not as many because that's just not who's buying a lot of groceries
Hmm.
typically to the point they need carts. They'll carry them with their hand or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think too, like to your point, is those guys have played out this sort of scenario in their heads enough times,
Yeah.
and they're also less as you get older, you're less deferential to authority because
Mhm.
you've been there and these guys are older than me. I can't. What is this young punk telling me what to do?
Mhm.
So I think it's a combination of all those things. Is I don't have to take your crap anymore. I'm older than you. I'm wiser than you. I'm in charge of stuff, and I think, like you said, I'm not going to be made to look a fool. All those things kind of add up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know. It's just disappointing to see how people act because, it's I mentioned a couple times like, I'm not gonna fight you over a cart. Like I remember
Right.
one guy, yeah, I can't remember the name of the video, but the cart return was right next to him, and he chased you around it a few times, constantly spouting like, "Oh, I'm gonna kick your ass, I'll beat you up," and
And that I know who you're talking. I think that was in Long Island also, and that guy was not in great shape by
no,
any
no.
means. But yeah, he had like his keys in his hand, like they teach you for self defense. Speaking of which, and he was right there, and I've gotten to the point now where I like I will subtly say, look at yourself, sir. You're not going to do this. And I think, unfortunately, I mean, either fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, that just because that sticks in them. Like, yeah, God damn it, I can't do that. But I'm going to say it a bunch more times.
Yeah, it's just it's a shame that, I wonder where it comes from, this again, the psychology behind it of just like, because I know there's like a theory behind it. I think it's just called the shopping cart theory, where there is technically no repercussions for you not leaving a cart out, but you don't get anything. Yeah, I mean, like in terms of rewards, it's like in the grand scheme of things, like yeah, you're preventing a cart from rolling and hitting something, but you don't get any reward for putting it back either. So it's a really good testament to how good of a person you actually are.
Yeah, it's very much that gray area because people
Hmm.
will say to me, and you've heard this in my videos as well as I'm sure it's be found everywhere online, is it's not illegal. You're not required, and
Hmm.
you're right. In almost there's a few cases you could find episodes of like the People's Court or Judge Judy where someone left a card out and it actually dinged someone's car, but they were there when it happened. So
Hmm.
it's a four-leaf clover. It's so rare
Yeah.
that and the cart when you look around, a lot of the signs in the parking lots will say we're not responsible. they'll say, please return your cards here. We cannot be held. I think Costco especially has this big, long, certain Costco locations. We give you these cards as a courtesy, but please, blah, 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 return them here. We can't be responsible. It's like a paragraph. um, but yeah, in almost no cases are you held accountable for it. People will say, well, and the analogy I use is like littering, and people will say, well, littering technically is illegal. True, but in like you could litter 1,000 times, and unless a cop is right there watching you, you're not going to be held accountable for it. So it's like I said, it's having some self awareness, and it's this the golden rule sort of thing is do unto
Yeah,
others.
exactly. I think a better analogy you use is like the hotel room, where it's like you don't trash a hotel room. It will get cleaned up, and they don't want, and there's no repercussions for doing it. But usually it's nice, as you like to say, like if you
Right.
pee on the toilet seat, you wipe it up. You don't just let the cleaning lady do it.
Yeah, or you could go, and I try to keep them as store specific, but like the hotel one I like, or like you could go in that same grocery store and take every loaf of bread and put it on the ground. That's not illegal, but it sucks for people who want to walk through that aisle, and it sucks for the employee.
Hmm.
Like you could do that, but it's a dick move.
Yeah, it really is. Um, so it's good that you get to, come out here and point out people's mistakes. And I also can't believe people say like, oh, you shaming people into doing it's not going to work when there is, video and audio proof where it sometimes does.
Well, it's the carrot and the stick sort of idea is, and it's funny. I did a video after the Dr. Phil thing back in like it was in November, December, where I pretended to be Agent McGraw,
Mm.
and I would because his one of his points was, well, you don't know what they're going through. They probably have a good excuse, and so I would walk up to people, and I got their attention by waving like $5 in the air, and they would like, oh, this guy's got $5. They will willingly engage with me at that point, and I'd say, hey, I noticed you left your card out. I bet you have a great excuse. And everybody's excuse was, I didn't feel like it. I was like, great.
Ah,
And I would bargain with them. I was like, at first I would say, no, 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 make one up. Like you're in a big hurry. And I would make up silly excuses, stuff like they've got gonorrhea or whatever,
mm,
whatever, you crap your pants, just like gross stuff. And then I would offer them the money to take it back, and they would then bargain with me. We're like, not for $1, but for $10. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, and I would talk like Dr. Phil. So I'll probably do that. I'll probably do that video maybe twice a year just to like highlight the whole, like you said, the shaming versus inspiring
yeah.
sort of thing.
Um, yeah. So I mean, like again, it's great what you do, but something I actually want to get into. I want to delve into Sebastian. I want to know a little bit about you. I'm gonna hit you with the three major, well, I guess the three major media questions. Like, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, geez. Well, the ones. That's a good question. I mean, all time, the one I watched, my parents had the VHS when I was a little kid. So, like the Blues Brothers or Revenge of the Nerds, I watched a lot as a little kid. So I really.
Ooh, I think I remember that Revenge of the Nerds movie. That's a classic. Um, what about?
Practical comedies, because kind of it's a lot of what I do is Jackass, Borat, that sort of stuff.
Okay, okay, interesting. I guess the next one is a favorite TV show.
I'm enjoying Better Call Saul right now. I
Ooh,
like that new pirate show. Our Flag Means Death, I believe, on HBO with Taika Waititi and Reese Darby. That's solid. I mean, actually, now that you bring it up, speaking of practical comedy, I think Nathan for You was they took the sort of real life prank show thing and took it to the next level with Nathan Fielder.
Okay.
okay,
Interesting.
interesting. I guess the final one would be if you've played any video games in your times, what would be your favorite?
Yeah, it's funny because I growing up I played as much video games as anybody else did, and I was there was all these arguments against, well, video games are a waste of time, and ultimately almost all video games are a waste of time. So I would love to do that these days. I mean, I guess Halo, that style of thing would be well, Mario Kart probably. Like all the Mario Kart genres are probably my most favorite because it's quick, it's fun, you can play it with friends. You know, it's not like a big long like Final Fantasy sort of thing or RPG style sort of thing. So I guess the Mario Kart genre, but I haven't played in forever just because every time I do, I feel a bit guilty. Like I could be doing other stuff that's actually productive.
I feel like though, I'll tell you what, if you ever did want to get into playing a bit more games, if you decided to stream on Twitch, I feel like you'd have a very good time there, you know, because you've built up quite an audience, and you know, if you like come out with like Cartnart Gaming, I feel like people would really enjoy that. So if you did want to do that, I definitely give that a consideration.
I guess there's a cart character or not character, but a cart you can ride in Fortnite. Is that right? 'Cause I've
I
seen videos of people tag me.
I don't know if that's a thing anymore. I know it
It
was.
used to be, but I'm not sure about recently.
You know, I keep on meaning to do it, and now that I've got a new setup here, I'm in pretty good shape of doing like a live stream that would be probably simulcast on Twitch and YouTube and whatever Instagram Live, where we would like break down old videos, premiere new videos, go through user questions, premiere new cartoons, stuff like that. More in like a live stream setting. So I keep on meaning to get to that. Maybe the next few weeks here we'll give it a test run or two.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
That's a good idea. And I guess going into sort of a, things, it's not really related, but, so I guess is just the YouTube page, like, is that like your career in a sense?
It could be, but no, it's not really. It's just sort of a I don't know, a
Side.
place to land everything. Yeah. And it's actually it's really easy. People ask me, they'll approach me in parking lots, people who are fans, and it's interesting to hear where they know it from. And these days, as you might imagine, it's mostly TikTok. Although, fun fact, I have been banned from TikTok.
Really?
Because
Really?
they said I'm engaging in acts which could cause myself harm.
Ah,
That being said, you could find Cartnarks videos all over TikTok because people will like create fan accounts and re-upload and so on and so forth. Um, so perhaps at one point I'll get my TikTok account back, but I get that half the people now mention, oh, I know, I've saw, especially if they're younger, of course, they'll say, I know you from TikTok. And I'll tell them, oh, yeah, I used to have an account there. So, but however they find me, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, if they're older, Instagram. But I think I try to point people to the YouTube page if they're looking to find, like you guys mentioned, the most popular, because they kind of sorts everything. You can see, oh, that has the most views, that has the second most views, or if I want to see what the most recent thing is. I find that the YouTube, they don't really have an algorithm like you would have on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So that's actually helpful for people who are trying to search for stuff.
yeah, okay, that makes sense. Um, I guess, sort of leading on to that, if you don't mind me asking, like, how do you, I guess, how do you feed yourself? Where does any income come from?
Carnarks came from it's part of and a spin-off within the Woody Show, which is a radio show based out of LA, but it's on in a couple dozen cities from Philadelphia to Canada and places in between. So and the analogy I use is sort of like how Jimmy Kimmel does like mean tweets and he does Lie Witness News. Like those are standalone segments within his show. But this is and Cartnark still is within the Woody Show, but it's also this other thing as well. So it's still part of the Woody Show, but a lot of people find it, and I think it wouldn't have become as big a deal as it is if it wasn't its own channel as well, where people could come there just for that. Certainly I wouldn't have, Dr. Phil wouldn't have had me on if he was like, oh, well, this is a radio show bit,
Yeah,
if it's to have it seem like it's the whole academy and that whole thing.
I see. Okay, okay.
So yeah, it's both. It's that, but that's my main job is to do segments, which Cartnarks is one of.
Okay. Oh, so
Now I
your
could,
original job. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I could, I suppose, if I wanted to just dedicate myself to Cartnarks, I could, but it's that's not the plan right now, anyway.
Oh, okay. So you originally started as someone who either did or make segments, and you decided it to be Cartnarks, or did
Well, yeah, it was like the
Cartnarks come
first
first?
anniversary. It was becoming very popular as far as just amongst the audience, and it was in danger of like not in danger, but we didn't want it to like take over all the social media, like
Hmm.
channels. People want to give places people one place where if they just wanted that, that's all they can get. And that's what YouTube's great for is you don't have to do a general interest show. It could be just a channel about returning cards. It could be
Yeah.
just a channel about, you see all these channels of guys who just do electrical experiments or just do one, to catch a predator sort of people,
Hmm.
or just do wrestling videos. That's the great thing about YouTube and what other social medias is that you can be very specific and not have to kind of serve all audiences.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Because I mean, like me just coming across Cartnarks again from word of mouth through a friend. I had a very shallow understanding of like, because I kept seeing the Woody show, at the bottom every video it starts off. I think it's like, is it brought to you by the Woody Show or something like that?
Just the logo it pops
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
yeah.
And so okay, I understand now. So it's a segment of that, but so I guess it's a chicken or egg situation. Did Cartnark start and then it became a segment of that, or was there a segment and you turned
Oh
it
no,
into
it was
Cartnarks?
always a segment first.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's like I'm trying to think. The only real time, and I'm not a fan of it, but like Carpool Karaoke was its own show, I think on Apple, but it was started as a segment on CBS Late Show. So that's kind of the same sort of idea or concept.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you needed a segment and you invented that. I see. Okay.
Right.
Uh,
Well, it was. I guess the way to put it around is like the segments I do are based off of real life observations. So like, here's an observation about the world. In this case, people don't return their carts. Let's go investigate. It'd be like it's kind of like how To Catch a Predator was a segment on Dateline NBC. I believe it was Dateline.
mhm.
Um, and then they started doing their own specials. And then I don't know the specifics, but Chris Hansen didn't work for Dateline anymore, and he couldn't call it To Catch a Predator, but now he does. I think it's called Hansen versus Predator,
Yep, that's right.
and that's its own channel. So he started off as a general like investigative reporter. He found this one thing that popped, the Catch a Predator, and now that's what all he does. And there's people who do different versions of what he does.
Okay.
Okay then. Um, well, oh, that's great. I'm glad I'm understanding the Cartnark lore, if you will.
Yeah,
Understanding the
just sort of how
history of it.
these. And there's a guy because there's not a lot of people that have, I guess, like causes. I guess the predator people much more serious, of course. But you don't see a whole lot of that out there.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I'm glad. Like I said, I'm glad I'm taking a better understanding of this. Um, yeah, but no, I still can't get over how it's a very selfless thing. I very much I guess I could say I thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. That was something. It's funny you bring that up because it was brought up at the Dr. Phil episode. The one guy who was like, "Well, he only does this for the views or whatever," and I brought it up to them like, I didn't start doing this knowing that it would take off into something that would be like a view based deal. I did it because I honestly, yeah, had a pet peeve about people leaving their carts out, and it goes back to that whole chicken and egg thing. It's like this wasn't started for that reason. It became something because it connects with people, because they have a similar problem in the world. So it's like I couldn't like just think, oh boy, if only were that easy to like think, oh, here's an idea, and I'm positive this will be its own giant, whatever, or semi-giant, cause. So it's when people come up with that, oh, it's just for the views. No, it comes from a real place, or else I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, in a sense, you're almost like the spirit animal of the people who just have a pet peeve for people who leave their carts out because I'll see all these fans who just walk up to you or pull up in their car next to you and they say like, hey man, like I really love what you're doing. I hate these people who leaving out their carts, and so it's really great.
It's great. It's very satisfying. It doesn't happen often, but it's very satisfying where I'm in the middle of dealing with someone else and they pull up And because the person who's left their card out will be like, well, you blah 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 blah, and then the fan shows up and it just totally deflates them because they're like, well, crap, he's not alone. And a lot of people hate this.
Yeah, he's
So
got
that's
support.
that doesn't happen all the time, but you can. There's a few videos where it does, and it's very satisfying.
I think one of my favorite videos of all time was I can't remember the exact title, but it was the situation where it was a husband and a wife, and the husband was not returning his card. He was being very angry and upset about it. You threw in the magnet, but his wife was very, she apologized and she was kind, and she again apologized for his behavior. And then I think you had like two or three fans, like while you were walking down to him, two or three fans come up to you and say like, "Oh, hey man, how's it going? Can I take a picture? Can I take a TikTok with you?"
That was very. It was in Sacramento. It was pretty recently in Sacramento, and as I'm talking to these fans, the husband, after it's all over, the husband pulls back up and he's like, "F you, F you, F you. Why are you bothering me? We took the card back." Like after the fact, yeah, I know you took the card back because, like he said, his wife took it back for him. She was being sweet, but he doesn't want to lose the argument. And again, as I'm
Yeah.
talking to somebody, he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah," and he's like chucking a magnet at me over my head.
Uh,
It's always, like I said, as much as these things are similar, there's always new wrinkles in what crazy people will act.
yeah, I know. That was a really confusing confrontation. I guess two more things here. One, what is your favorite, like not necessarily most dangerous or anything like that, but what is your favorite, I guess, either encounter or like video you've uploaded to the channel?
There's one that's sort of low key that I like just because it's so weird. It was in Duarte, California, which for folks who don't know is about 45 minutes east of LA. And this lady, I approached her and she's left her cart just like in the spot or whatever. And she said, "I can't return my cart. My boyfriend just broke up with me, and I'm having a mental breakdown."
Oh,
But she went shopping in the middle of your
Yeah.
mental breakdowns, quote unquote mental breakdown. It was just like the weirdest off the wall excuse. And then
Yeah.
and she didn't fight me about it. That was just her excuse, and she drove off.
huh.
So just so odd, you know.
Yeah, that is a strange one. I wouldn't expect that.
Right. Again, I sure as hell didn't. So that's the one that always come to mind is like, what a weird, and because it's real.
Yeah,
Her boyfriend broke up with her. Now she's not having a mental breakdown, obviously, or she couldn't be at the store,
yeah,
or drive,
Yeah.
But it's just a strange excuse.
really is. Yeah, that is odd. But I mean, you're bound to come across it after all the time you've been doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
My
Um,
favorite one's definitely the video titled Mr. Mahomes.
oh
That
yes.
one gets
Oh
me
yeah, that
every
was in it was outside of Kansas City where the guy and he we talk about guys who are like 45 to 55 who love screaming at me. He tried to run me over with his truck because he popped up over the
Yeah.
little mulch
Nope.
barrier where he left his he's trying to commit vehicular manslaughter, I believe I said at the time.
Yep.
But he's wearing a Patrick Mahomes jersey because that was on a football Sunday, which I believe is why he was doing that. Just he had a great voice that was just effing me up and down. I explained to him so he threatens to take me inside the store to talk to my
Yep.
manager. I told him several times I did not work at the store, but he kept on using that as like his go-to tactic. Yeah, it was just effing me and mother effing me up and down. It was very aggressive, almost out of nowhere.
It's like he got aggressive as soon as you asked him why didn't you return the cart? First thing he went to is just being aggressive.
Very
Only
sarcastic, very
question.
F you. And I explained to him, like, he was pretty mild. Like, you put it up on the mulch, so
Yeah.
that's not blocking anybody. It still sucks. It still gets the wheels all there. I told him it's like a lesser infraction, but still, come on, But no, he was not having it.
Well, you're making it so he couldn't watch his football game. That must have been
Yeah, right?
must have been
Exactly.
it.
God, and that was early too. That was like 9:30 a.m. on a Sunday. That was like
Lord.
if that's how you're acting at that time of the day, goodness gracious.
Yeah, it was a very interesting confrontation, and it really just reflected the almost our theory how like everyone you interact with seems to be almost like an NPC from Grand Theft Auto. It's just
Yeah,
unbelievable how aggressive
it's
they
all
are.
these weird like these people are among us. It's strange.
A
Um,
lot of times, and it's like no way they're real. Like it just Oh,
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that's if these people were actors, that would get out there. Obviously, people would be
yeah.
like, "Oh, that's my cousin, and the cart narcs paid him $50 to blah 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 blah."
Mhm.
First off, why would you want to be known as the person who acted like that? Like,
Yeah.
why would you want
Literally.
exactly? Like, who would volunteer for that? And so yeah, that's the weird thing about like real people is they are stranger than fiction, as the saying goes.
Yeah, I really believe that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, like, especially when it comes to people's behavior and why they do things like that.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but what was I gonna mention? Oh yeah, I guess what's the closest time you got from being run over?
Yeah, because you see that in a few videos. They'll try to be badasses and they'll swerve at me. And that's why I am and you'll notice it in the videos. I'm very careful not to be directly in front or behind of a car whenever possible. Um, so that because of that, it's never gotten super close. Like I've never even been like sideswiped or anything by a mirror. But there's one from last fall in Massachusetts where this older guy, he had a great Boston accent. Man, get that off my car. I was at an angle and I was up on a walkway, but he definitely swerved the wheel toward me, like he wanted to try to at least intimidate me, if not hit me. But yeah, it hasn't happened to the point where I've actually gotten knocked over or anything, or even clipped at all. Just
Good.
because I'm very much aware of that.
Yeah, you got to be really really aware of your surroundings. I feel like if you wanted to, I mean, I know you're not supposed to, go under this title, but I feel like if you did want to become a police officer or something, you'd probably translate pretty well, especially when it comes to confrontations like that.
Yeah, de-escalation and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That's what people say a lot is that it's I wish I had their patience when I was dealing with my kids, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's repetition, so I'm used to it at this point.
Yeah, no, it's very, very, very impressive how it's gotten so much better over the, I want to say years. I don't actually know. How long have you been doing this?
It's been I started it in the late summer 2018,
Oh,
and we weren't doing it very often. But yeah, again, as it kind of gained popularity, that's when a year later, so 3.5 years total, and then the channel itself's been up for like two something, I believe.
okay. Interesting. So yeah, I guess after that amount of time, yeah, you would gain a lot of experience and get much better at it. Okay, makes
You
sense.
see it too when you watch I mean, it's not on right now, like Cops or Live PD when they pull over or they go to someone's house they've been 1,000 times. Like, all right, Jeff, what's going on, buddy? Okay, yeah, and
Yeah,
we know what the deal is. Why are we here this time?
it's become
So,
routine pretty much.
yeah, exactly, same thing, repetition and routine.
Um, Also wanted to say, you're, it's very inspiring as well because not only are you directly preventing, cart accidents from happening, maybe someone who watches the video is like, maybe I've left out my cart, once or twice, so I'm not gonna do that again. So
Yeah,
there's,
that's
yeah,
we get those
helping.
comments where like people were just they didn't think about it. They weren't being malicious. They just weren't thoughtful.
Yeah. And it also helps, inspire people. Maybe, they could walk up to someone like, hey, mention to them they left their card. Or if they just see like an abandoned car, they'll push it back. Because I remember after watching your videos, I had to take a stop down to Walmart. And I get out of the car and I see that there's a bunch, probably like 4 or 5 like carts just abandoned. And I thought, well, it's my time to shine, time to take after a great hero. So I just go, spend fun. The worst part is it doesn't take long at all. It took like maybe 3 minutes. I just put all the cards back, done.
Yeah, it's funny, and that's going above and beyond, and that we don't ever ask anybody to do that. But if you look, actually, I just happened on the Cartnark's Twitter is this lady who she says her little kid likes watching the Tesla videos because Teslas have those automatic recording cameras,
Mhm.
and a lot of those apparently they're video compilations of people's carts, Teslas getting hit by carts. And she said she put away at Walmart. I put away 9 carts to prevent the cart. They call it the cart demon, apparently,
Ooh.
from showing up. And there's, I guess, the video compilations where Tesla owners send this stuff in. So I retweeted her. And that's above and beyond. But again, like that's another thing too that she mentioned there is that little kids are way into cart narcs. And I think just because it's kind of just from the funny aspect of it, like, oh, look, here's a
Yeah.
bunch of adults acting like babies, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, right below that, there's another I just retweeted too. This other kid who made like a little like Halloween costume for a 9-year-old, and I know another guy who has like a 4-year-old who loves cart narcs. And again, they don't see the bigger, and I'll get people tag me in Instagram stories of the little kids saying, making the siren noise and stuff. So it's interesting because I would not have expected that. Like, first off, there's a lot of cussing in cart narc
Yeah.
videos, not for me. So I'm surprised some parents are showing these videos to their kids, but that's their choice. But yeah, I assume they just like it from the silly slapstick element of it, not
Yeah.
like the moral purpose or the that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine. And I guess another question I had. I know like these weren't necessarily invented by you, but what made you come up with the terms like lazy bones, angry bones, like the
Yeah,
siren?
it was kind of the slow evolution of it is the more nice I am and the more just pleasant and sweet I am, the less reason the person has to flip out. Um, so I would use silly insults, because people will write, you called them names. Yeah, I said they were lazy bones. Who cares?
Yeah, fair enough.
And so it's an evolution. It's like anything. Is like it's the slow building of like, well, what if this? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Well, if they're lazy bones, what does this other thing be? And the comparison I get a lot is like SpongeBob, or if they're older, like Howdy Doody or Dudley Do Right, just like a Ned Flanders that from The Simpsons, like
That's
depending
a
on what
good
their
one.
their
Yeah.
point of view is, but mostly SpongeBob. I'm just like sweet and nice, and that's where all this like terminology comes from, is just being as nice as possible and as sweet as possible, so that their insanity is even more highlighted.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I know because that is a good idea because it is such like a very, light insult, like oh, lazy bones. That's like that's like what my mother would say if I was like staying up late, playing video games, not doing chores. I'd get called a lazy bones, but like even as a kid, that doesn't offend you. So I mean, that's a good choice. But yeah, no, you are right in the fact that it really does highlight their insanity when they get so ticked off. Because I remember there are a few cases where you call them a lazy bones, and then that's when they flip out.
Oh, okay, that's it. I was going to until you said that. Oh, were you really? Okay, sure.
Yeah. Or I hate the cases where it's almost like people are like they're afraid to confront you, but they really are lazy and they really don't want to take back their cart because I don't know what happened afterwards. I can't remember, but I do remember one video where there was a lady who didn't bring back her cart. You set up the siren, you confronted her, and you said, hey, could you put back your cart? And she's like, oh yeah, I will. And you're like, okay, I'm waiting, and she was just sitting in her car. And
Right,
then
she wanted to wait me out.
yeah, and then I think you were dealing with someone else. You're like, okay, I'll be back. And then you deal with another guy, and like that took probably about like 5 minutes. And then you come back, and she's still sitting there waiting. So I
Yeah, I
don't
think that was in
understand the thought
like
process.
East Arkansas, where yeah, she said, "Oh, okay, okay, well, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, go for it, go for it." Yeah, I think she was just stalling for time to either leave or B, like come up with a better answer, or
Yeah.
it's a version of you can't tell me what to do. I do what the classic Cartman line. I do what I want. You
Hmm.
know, like, oh yeah, okay, sure, fine.
Yeah. Did she? I don't remember, but did she end up bringing back her card, or did you do it for her? Or...
No, it kind of ended on a cliffhanger. Is that I was like going around elsewhere around the parking lot because she just wasn't gonna leave. She was on her phone, so like I could sit there and wait for half an hour. But
Yeah.
I think she was gonna wait me out, and so we don't know to this day. We'll have to go back to the door cameras to find
You
out.
might be still waiting there.
Yeah,
You
she
never
could
Could
be.
Yeah, could
know.
be. We don't know.
Legend says she's still waiting. Who knows? Um, but I I really also like because it happens with these like very niche like channels and whatnot, such as yourself, where you come up with these like I guess it's a slogan, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a slogan. Like your siren noise, like that's infamous now with your channel. The
Yeah, people will drive up like in parking lots and make the noise at me or whatever.
I know it's great. Any specific way you came up with the way you do it, or you just like, hey, I'm just gonna make a siren?
Yeah, no, it was the idea behind like again, same thing. Like it's mapping a what if there was a squad of people who did this? Well, they
Hmm.
couldn't because you can't make the same siren as a police or fire because it's illegal under some whatever the statute is of like impersonating whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can't like there's it's funny in radio you can't broadcast the FCC warning, like earthquake or tornado, like that specific tone and series of sounds is reserved just for them. So I was like, well, I can't do that. I'll have to do my own, and it's just, well, I don't have a siren on me, so I'll just say it with my mouth, and it's just, again, it's the silliness. I'm as silly as possible. Uh, so that's just, it's again, it wasn't pre-planned. It's just kind of, like I said, it's kind of developed organically.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That makes it even better, more iconic. The fact that you didn't take it from something, you completely came up with it. So that's good.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know of another like even like a cartoon that's ever done that. I'm sure it's somewhere, but not that I can think of off the top of my head.
um, I would imagine like I mean the world's so big now like maybe somewhere out there
Yeah. Bugs
someone
Bunny 50 years ago did it.
yeah
for
exactly
all,
but,
for all
now
we
you're
know.
now you're gonna get copyright strike but so, yeah, something else I wanted to say was so in your quote unquote cart narc academy, do you do any like specific like blocking training? Because I noticed that you like to mention it where if someone throws something at you, you say, "Oh, I blocked it," and I mean you do a good job. Like they'll whip something at you, but you'll deflect it almost. So do you do anything to practice that, or you just gotten good over time?
Yeah, it's just they've done it to me so many times. I've had a lot of practice. Because you'll notice that's a big move. If they don't throw it, they do three things. They either put it on the ground, they throw it just off in a direction, or they'll try to hit me with it. And it's just a way to like, because I'm constantly narrating what's going on because it does have to play on the radio, so that I'm like, well, they're not gonna say, hey, I'm throwing this at you. I have to kind of explain what just happened, and also too because I'm mic'd up and they're not mic'd up. Like I'll repeat
Ah,
what I think they said, or I'll reply. I'll say what they said in the reply to them. Just kind of it resets and it builds out the world, I guess. It's funny, I got a comment from somebody who said my friend is blind, but they like Cartnarks videos because you're explaining what's happening. And so that's the same thing as they like when they throw something at me, I'll explain that I just blocked their attack, or I'll explain they tried to run me over, or I'll explain they're chasing me, just to kind of help be as just give a live sort of play by play.
yeah, almost like closed captions in a sense.
A little bit, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that makes more sense. Because I know it's a radio show. I should have came to mind, but yeah, it would be like audio only. So I can imagine, closing my eyes and listening to it and still know what's happening. So yeah, good job for that.
Yeah, it helps out because that way too, like I said, especially because they're not mic'd up. So if they're screaming at me, you know what they're saying.
Yeah.
But if they're kind of mumbling or being quiet, and the mic on the GoPro isn't as good as my, you're in my human ears, I find it's helpful to kind of explain so that people aren't having to kind of guess at what's going on.
Okay, I see. Um, and have you? Because I haven't really done any like investigating for it myself. Have you created any? I guess what am I trying to say here? Like people who want to do what you do, but they're not under the Cartnarks name. Like they've made their own channel, like I don't know, like Cartnarks 2 or something, or they start doing their own thing. And if that
Yeah,
isn't a thing, would do you approve of that?
no, I don't think there's not that I've seen. I'm sure I would have been notified. There have been a ton of one-offs. There have been a number of people that have. People on TikTok are so stupid.
Yeah.
It's mostly teenage girls, which is why I
Right.
guess, but and boys, just teens in general. Is there been a few people who've done like what are obviously sketches, or like a guy will show up with a hall monitor or a parking enforcement style uniform, and some girl will like throw a cart at a car, and you're like, so wait, and then another person will be the person who just happened to catch all this on video, like from behind a tree or something. Like there's no, but people will believe it. They'll think, oh my god, I can't believe it, and they'll tag me in it. And I'll like, no, I don't
That's
believe. Number
fake.
one, how are you so
Yeah.
stupid? You believe this? So there've been a couple of those, but there's one-offs, and then there've been a couple of guys like YouTubers who've done it, and again, they're always too aggressive for my taste.
Mm.
But they only do it as a one-off, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, no full-time stuff. I don't see how anyone. And I bring this up a lot when people bring up like copying other people's ideas. The idea is such a small percentage of it. It's 95+% is execution.
Hmm.
And most people don't have the patience to and or the just the general drive and ambition to go out and do the whole thing repeatedly and again and again and again and again and again. So people are worried about someone stealing your idea. The idea means very, very little typically. It's how well you do it and how many times you're doing it.
Yeah, I agree. But I guess if, it'd be a rare case, but if someone were to create, I don't know, like a Cart Narcs 2 and do it as professionally, would you be necessarily opposed to that, or would it be fine?
I tell people when they ask to like go on patrol in whatever city they're in, I say I can't really prove. Number one, I couldn't approve of it because of legal issues. Number two, it's what they call brand dilution, I suppose, because I can't control if they, get hurt or hurt somebody. So and you're right. They may do it really well. They might do it better for all I know. But it's something that it's when it's out of your hands like that, it's a problem is more than likely to happen.
Yeah, makes sense. Um,
Fair enough.
Alrighty then. I guess coming on to a pretty, I guess, I don't know if we're like notorious for it. I mean, like our logo is a big brain, but I suppose a question we usually ask any guests we have, or just we've asked everyone who's been on the podcast here, what's the strangest dream you've ever had?
Strangest dream. Oh boy, cart related, or I don't think I honestly I don't think I have any cart dreams really.
Anything. Doesn't have
Not,
to be
That's
cart
tough.
related.
not
Just
yet.
delve into your mind. What's the
Uh,
strangest thing you've dreamed of?
a lot of mine are like I'm like it is sort of video gamey actually. It's like I'm like running and trying to complete a task, like a quest of some kind. Um, God, what was one where like, and oftentimes it'll involve like there'll be a celebrity involved. Like there was one recently. I think it had to do with the Bruce Willis thing, where like my dream was that Bill Murray was getting dementia, and I had to like run around and help him from like stop him from hurting himself. Like
Okay.
walking into traffic, and but he kept on doing. He kept on you know, uh, putting his hand in the garbage disposal, like, and I had to like keep on following him, and like most of my stuff is something like that, where it's weird, of like there's an animal that's loose, and I gotta keep people safe from, or I'm being chased by like one of those like chasing, but it's continual, like there's always a
Yeah.
new thing, always a new problem, sort of thing. But yeah, the Bill Murray one is one that's recently
That
come
is
to mind.
quite odd. Do you become Bill Murray's caretaker after you develop dementia? That is that's
Yeah,
quite
like
the
That's
dream.
interesting. That's different. I like it.
yeah, it's like that's most of my dreams are something like that, where it's a continuing, nonstop sort of quest.
Huh.
There's always new problems.
That's
Maybe that is cart
interesting.
related.
Sorry?
Maybe that is cart related. It's a similar
In
idea
a
that
sense, yeah.
no matter how many times I do it, there's still people screwing it up.
Something out there, yep. That's really interesting. I've never actually heard anyone, I mean, not that I've, surveyed 1,000 people, but I've never heard anyone have any sort of dream like that. Like maybe one or two, but the fact that it's so consistent for you, that's interesting. That's gotta like say something about you or something like that.
Yeah, it's again, it's a lot of running. I think I'm not always being chased, but sometimes I'm either being chased or doing the chasing involving like solving a problem of some sort.
You're just a problem solver, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Do you think there's any merit to like that whole, belief that like dreams have meaning? I guess. I mean, there's different layers
Uh,
to it, but like in general.
Yeah, I think when people say that dreams have meaning, they're kind of looking at it like a horoscope or something psychic, as opposed to like mine are with a preoccupation, where
Mhm.
like it doesn't necessarily. It could just talk about what you're interested in, not necessarily like, oh, are you a your personality, but kind of like what your thoughts are. So I mean, to an extent, sure, but I think maybe not that deeply.
Yeah, I agree. I think like people who think of like, oh, you had a dream about like driving a bus in space, that means you're gonna have, you're gonna meet somebody you like on Wednesday. It's like, I don't
Right.
know
Yeah. It's
about.
not a predictor of your future, but
Yeah,
maybe just a kind of an
exactly.
idea of what you're thinking about.
Because I know like it's basically proven at this point, well, not like 100%, but it's pretty consistent in the fact that like people who are really stressed usually have like dreams of like their teeth falling out or like they're naked in public or something like that. So it, like you said, yeah, it seems like there's a layer of like, your dreams reflect mainly just what you're thinking and like what's going on, not so much like a future predictor, like I said.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I guess another good question is like, what do you think about the whole horoscope thing in general? Like,
Well, I mean, I point this out because when you look at what it actually means, what they're trying to say, they're saying that this star or this cluster of stars, which are literally millions of light years away,
mhm.
that the light and their position is not it happened millions of years ago before human beings even existed. You're saying that position of stars affects your personality, and it affects your personality different than it affects someone's personality who was born 6 months after you. Which there's zero evidence of that. It's
Mhm.
you know it's ancient superstition from when it's people trying to find meaning in the world, and that's all they had to go. That's the thing they always saw was stars. So there's zero, especially again when you really drill down, especially I mean just into the meaning of it. You think about what they're saying, like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's sort of it's a really weird relationship with like a lot of those really odd beliefs now, where it's like it's bigger than ever, but it's made fun of more than ever. It's odd.
Yeah, no, it's weird because I've been to conventions of those people, and they do it with everything. They'll do it with that. There's the phrase "reading the tea leaves." That is,
Oh, that's a big one,
pe-
yeah.
people still do that. They'll make you a cup of quote unquote, whatever spiritual, magical, whatever word they want to use that doesn't really mean anything, and they'll read coffee grinds tea leaves. They'll throw bones on. It's all superstitions that you would have thought would have gone away 10,000 years ago, but it is not the case.
I think the reason why they're still around, there's probably like it's one of three reasons. I'd say one, a desire to be unique. I think that's a huge one nowadays for a lot of things. Like people, because not to sound like I guess pessimistic, but it's pretty unrealistic to say like we're all like extremely unique and like a very special. I mean, like, yeah, people are unique definitely, but we're not that different. We all want the same things. We all consume the same things. But I mean, like, it's just such a big craving of being unique. That's one of them where it's like, I'm a Capricorn, so I'm different and special in these ways.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's if you read it's actually a sales book, but it's how to win friends and influence people. The author there, he breaks it down very simple, like very similar to what you just said. He said people want to feel important, and if you think about almost everything in life, that's what it comes to. It's I want to be the hero in my own story, So when someone like the cart narcs come up to you and tells you, "Oh, you're not acting like a hero," that's what they call cognitive dissonance, and it breaks your brain, as we see
yeah,
in a lot of my videos, unfortunately.
yeah, it's sort of like this is their fantasy world, and like they're getting called out on it. And there's usually as almost like as you can see in your videos, there's like one or two responses. One, they freak out, or two, they just ignore you.
Right, and it is the very rare individual that can take a step back and say, you know what? Now that you
They're
mention it, you're
wrong.
right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you
You
got a
could say the
point.
same thing about me. I said, well, you're just doing this because you want to feel important, and on a sense, I feel that you could argue that I'm doing it because I think it's an important cause. So I mean, there's some truth to all of those things.
Yeah, like even so, like I do think in a sense you can be the hero of your own story. It's just not your fantasy story, not the way that you want things to be, but you
Be
can do
realistic.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Be real, like you can realistically be the hero of your own story.
Have some
Uh,
perspective, hopefully.
yeah, yeah. And I guess another reason, um, people, what was it, the second out of the three that they still have those strange superstitions is, they sort of, I guess, it's kind of similar to the first one. They like want to believe it, but they also use it to like take advantage of people who want to believe it, or something like that.
Yeah, that's always my question with that sort of stuff, and it's funny you mentioned this because it's an area I'm looking at kind of expanding into more than I have already. Is I believe that they believe what they're saying the vast majority of the time. That there are those who do it to be, and you see they get if you just search psychic lawsuit, those definitely exist where people are being predatory. Um, but I think the most part, because I've met a lot of these people, I've listened to their programs. For the most part, I think that they believe what they're saying is real. Because trust me, they're not making a lot of money doing it. Um, Funny, I was driving around Seattle doing cart narcs on like a Saturday, Sunday afternoon, and on one of the and I love tuning the local radio, and they had a show that was pet psychics. It was
Huh.
call up, tell me about your pet, I'll give you some advice. And so I
Really?
don't believe they're not making any money doing that. So I gotta believe that they think they really have a
Yeah.
pet psychic ability.
If there's no like monetary gain, then there's definitely something. They probably think it's real, like you're saying. Like, damn, that's
And like you
interesting.
said, it's a way to be special or individual or
Hmm.
important, and they feel like they're helping people. When in fact, if you go back, there's a famous, I mean, there was a Showtime show, Penn and Teller BS, from a number of years ago, where they tackle psychics, and the answer that they have for them, people say, well, what does it hurt? Well, because you're taking time away and resources and energy, even if it's not a lot of money, you're taking time away from solving your actual problem through therapy or in some cases medical advice. That's a lot
Yeah.
of people say that's part of the reason Steve Jobs died when he did is he decided that he wasn't going to trust traditional medicine for his I think it was like lymphoma or liver cancer, whatever kind of cancer he had,
Mhm.
and he went to like some fruitarian diet and
Oh.
and instead of getting actual medical, not that eating fruit's bad for you, but like that's he just said nope, not doing medical stuff anymore, which just
Oh.
goes to show you that just because you're a genius or very smart in one area doesn't mean you know everything.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't know he went fruitarian though.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Let me pull it
That's
up. I want to be as specific as possible.
Hmm.
because
From early age, out of fruits and vegetables, strange eating habits. Uh, don't drink. Apparently Ashton Kutcher tried it again. Another great role model. Okay, now Steve Jobs, cancer treatment. I'm gonna look it up. Treatments. Yeah, pancreatic cancer. That was the most.
Okay.
oh, okay.
Okay. And he refused it. Yeah, very famously refused surgery for 9 months instead opting for alternative medicine. That's according to the guy who wrote his biography. So yeah, he again, I get it. You're dying. You'll reach out for anything
Yeah.
and all things, but to go for something that literally is made up or has almost no
Yeah.
evidence behind it. Yeah, this was on a 60 Minutes interview. He says macrobiotic, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so he said he at one point he just gave up, tried to do this one thing that was in the realm of holistic blah 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 garbage nonsense. You can, in fact, it's funny. I just ordered this book for a friend of mine on Amazon. You could find numerous books that say you should be drinking your own urine and they list 1,000 different things they claim they can cure.
Ah, yes.
Huh.
Yeah, I search like
Yeah.
urine therapy. This has been around for literally millennia, but there's still people peddling it to this day.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. Because it usually starts at like it starts out with a very basic understanding of science and like, oh, yeah, maybe like, oh, hey, there's this thing in pee that like was good in this one very controlled situation. So that means it cures everything.
Yeah,
It's really,
there's always a kernel of truth that
yeah.
has been expanded without any kind of evidence to include. Here's Amazon. Urine therapy, nature's elixir for good health.
Huh.
It says on the front, and you can't say certain things can do certain things. That's against the Federal Trade Commission laws. But it says personal treatment for acne, indigestion, migraines, wrinkles, warts, and many other
Might have to invest.
Oh yeah.
written by a PhD. But see, people throw around PhD, but
Oh
in
yeah.
what? That's not an MD. They're very, or they'll say, I'm Dr. So and so, and you should drink. What is your doctor in? Oh, public health or history or something.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
It's like people just love to use PhD. Like I remember this guy who had a PhD in mathematics who, you would think is a smart guy until you learn he was a flat earther who just
yeah,
kept
it's
bringing up the fact he's like, "Oh, but I have a PhD in mathematics." It's like,
yeah.
"Yeah,
People throw
well,
the. I always ask when they say master's or PhD in what, and then oh, what does it have to do with this? So
mhm.
it's sort of a side conversation, but something that a lot of people are still doing.
Yep, definitely, I know." Like it's crazy, but it kind of had me worried there. I would imagine that alternative medicine that Steve Jobs used is probably I think it's called I can't pronounce it.
Homeopathy, yeah,
Homeopathy.
which
Yes,
has
that's what
been,
I'm trying to say.
and it's a catch-all term. But if you look at what it really means, and you go back to it, it means it was invented hundreds of years ago by somebody who said, well, my idea is, let's say you've got, fill in the blank, smallpox. I can take a tiny little drop of smallpox, dilute it to a billionth of the percent, and you drink that and you're cured. And there's no medical, backing to this, but now everybody thinks that homeopathy means like natural, and they say, well, their argument will be, well, you're for big pharmacy and big drug companies, and you're
Yeah.
for the opioid crisis and blah 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 blah. And that's all well, and that's it's clouds the argument by saying, they'll point to, well, drug companies overprescribed this drug, and you want to trust them? Not all the time, but they'll use that to cloud it when you want to talk about specifically them saying that you can drink urine to cure
Yeah.
your acne.
Yeah.
They'll say, but what about this? Well, that's not what we're talking about. Nobody's perfect. Medicine used to be 100 years ago, leeches and bloodletting and stuff like that, and those were doctors, and they weren't right either. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
they use all of these sort of techniques, much like in cart narcs. They throw a bunch of other stuff at the wall that's
Yep.
irrelevant to try to distract from the issue at hand.
Yep. Agreed. I know and the sad thing is, like you mentioned before, where it's like it's usually like a little kernel of truth. It's like, yeah, that could work in like specific situations, or if you do it properly, but then they bury it underneath a pile of just like complete nonsense.
Right, right. It's funny. There just was a video. You can find the video. It was in the past month where a guy he was saying there are stem cells back to pee. There are stem cells in your pee, which is true. But to find, refine, and then develop those stem cells is a large medical thing that hasn't even been fully explored. But since there are stem cells in your pee, he was literally injecting it into his arm.
Oh
Oh,
my god.
Yeah,
did
just
he?
look for like man injects pee into arm,
Oh
I bet you
no.
man inject pee arm stem cell. I guarantee it'll pop right up. Yeah, there it is, top listing, at least on
Ooh.
my Google.
I
He's
think
an
he forgot
anti-vaxxer, blah
that.
blah blah.
I think he forgot that he is like 99.99% like waste your body wants to get rid of.
Yeah, but again, like you said, there's a kernel of truth, and they'll follow that. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's back to card narcs. That's why in my videos you'll see people will try to take the argument into different directions, like
Hmm.
vandalism with a magnet, or
Yep.
they'll say other people are doing that, or they'll say they don't have this and that. And so I always try to shut that down and bring it back to the card.
Yeah, I think that's the
Because
worst one that other people are doing it. It's like, yeah, well, you can be the outlier, and make a
right,
difference.
what does that have to, or like they'll say, well, but I'm busy. It's busy doing what? What does that have to do with the card? So it's a very like a Judge Judy sort of, I guess, attitude on my part, where human nature is to distract and deflect, and it's my job to bring it back to the point. Which
Yep.
is why I don't cuss and I'm not mean, because that's something else they could key on to say, oh, well,
Yeah.
you're mean, so I'm not doing it. No,
Yeah.
I'm giving them
No.
zero excuse and trying to swat down each excuse they present to me.
Yeah, very clever way of doing it. But I guess quickly I wanted to go back. So it kind of had me worried there that I mean, it's still sad that he passed away, but it kind of had me worried that Steve Jobs was doing fruitarian because I don't know if you know that fruitarians are notorious for being like horribly unhealthy because, like you mentioned, like fruit's good, fruit's great, like it's very good for you. It's got vitamins, all that stuff. But it's the fact that if you only eat fruit, you have nowhere enough protein, nowhere enough calories, and they usually become horribly anorexic.
Yep.
Yeah, that's and look, you do whatever gets you by, but there are a few cases, and unfortunately rather sad, of parents who do it to their kids,
Yeah.
and
Oh
it
no.
causes like brain
No.
damage
Yeah.
because kids need things like, and like you said, protein and other minerals and vitamins that
Hmm.
you can't get from a monoculture style diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a great read, but you can find those cases out there. So it's, do whatever works for you. I'm not against, if you being a vegetarian, vegan, whatever works for you, fine.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
hell, like, you know,
but yeah, be careful.
exactly. Yeah. I think that's the main thing. Like, because fad diets are so huge now. I think like if it works for you specifically, if you have noticed an improvement, that's great. However, don't like force it on other people. Like it's really also sad to see like people will force their like cats or dogs to go vegan. It's like that's not good for them.
Yeah, it's
Number
funny. My
one.
friend I work with has a story about that where he was talking to a friend of his who said, "No, my dog's a vegetarian." Like, first off, no, he's not. And how do you
No,
know that? Did he
yeah.
tell you? But yeah, if you look, if you just look parents, kids, vegan diet, there are cases all over the world where parents are looking at jail time for malnutrition because of
Yeah.
it happens everywhere, and it's not healthy. And no doctor, no pediatrician especially will tell you to do that. They'll maybe
Mhm.
give you some, you don't have, your kid doesn't have to be a giant fat piece of crap, that's
Yeah.
unfortunately, you don't have to go the other way, but go on the other extreme is certainly not healthy either.
Exactly, yeah. But like there's a you gotta find a balance.
Exactly.
Like the Japanese say, everything in moderation, in moderation, in moderation, in moderation. I think they say that many times. But yeah, no, it's sad to see, but hey, it's how things work. There's always gonna be people. I feel like just it's a really strange argument, but there's like too many people almost. Like it makes you think sometimes. It's like there's just too many people, too many crazy things because of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, we're gonna, if you believe the current trends, we're gonna plateau here in a little 100
Yeah,
year, 200
yeah, it
years, and
seems to be that
there'll
way.
be too few people.
Yeah.
See.
Uh, but hopefully, yeah, hopefully the trends show that we are gonna plateau a little bit. We only have so much room here. But anyway, we've been going for like wow, it's almost 2 hours now. That's another really long episode we've had. Um, I guess I'll wrap it
Hmm.
up here.
Sure.
So Sebastian, thank you so very much to take the time out of your busy life to come on the
Okay.
show.
No, no,
We
my pleasure.
really do appreciate it.
Really do appreciate it. Do you wanna? I mean, you're more famous than us, but do you still want to shout out your stuff?
Yeah, if you search any platform, you search cart narcs, even again, search TikTok for cart narcs, you'll find our videos. It won't be our channel, but it'll be our videos. And yeah, it's like I said, I would say the YouTube channel is probably, if you're looking to like find something specific, that's probably the easiest one to search, just because you can search by date and then by most views, least views.
Mhm.
Um, I need to find a way to tag cities. I put the city on the video, but I need to put it in the metadata somewhere. I just thought of that actually.
I believe
That's good. We
like
talked
if
about that.
you
Maybe that'll help people find things more easily. So maybe look for that maybe in the next month or two as I go through those.
yeah, I believe in if when you upload a video, you can go down like extra settings and like you can do the tags, and I'm pretty. You could probably just do something like that.
Right. Yeah. I think they make it easy.
Hmm.
Another thing I noticed recently on YouTube is some videos don't have dates on them. Like
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Really?
I don't know if that's a new feature. 'Cause I understand why you would do that because if you see a video and you're like, oh, that's from 4 years ago, you're less likely to, like, that's not new. But if it's, with Cardinar's video, if it's new to you, I think that's probably the attitude there is that,
Yeah, I guess the best
it
way to
gives
tell
people
the
to
date now
watch.
is by the comments. Just see when they were made, like roughly around the same time it came out. But
Yeah, and it's weird because some videos still have I don't know if that's an option I've not noticed yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we will see. But anyways, like I said, thank you very much again for coming on. And one final thing, if you don't mind, can we get a little sample of the siren?
Sure, yeah, I found that earlier on I was more like I had more variety with it. Now it's kind of the same all the time, which makes me think like I need to kind of switch it up. But it's some version of which like that. It's funny. I saw some comment recently. Someone said I've never heard a siren go skeet doodly whoop. I was like, well, I guess that's how you know it's a card narc siren.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching and or listening. Go check out Narcs, great content over there. And I guess we'll see you next week. And as a very good person would say, Narcs out.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.